Hello, welcome to the show. My name is Todd Goldfinger, and this is Conversations About Mental Health. Today we have a very special show for you. We have an artist from the area. His name is Jason Gisser, and I want to introduce you to him. Here he is.
How you doing?
So I have some questions for you, Jason.
Okay.
That I wrote down. So I figure we can get started. So, who are you? Where are you from?
Okay. I'm Jason Gisser. I'm a musician, and I grew up in Continental Village, New York, which is kind of between Peekskill, Garrison, and Putnam Valley. Growing up, I have two older sisters. I'm adopted, so my family is not biological, but they're family. They're great, and
Sure.
but you always have that question in the back of your head. Growing up and to this day, I always suffered from depression.
Right. Which is why we're here. When were you first diagnosed with mental illness?
In my early 20s, I think I was 23 or 24, I went on my own to go speak with somebody, and they had diagnosed me with depression. There was a different term for it, and I can't remember for the life of me what it was because that was.
But you went to a therapist.
Oh yeah, yeah, and then, but I think going there, I already knew. I mean, I knew since I was a little kid. I started playing music when I was 9 years old, and I still have old tapes that I recorded of songs that I wrote, and they were all about depression. I mean, it was kind of a way to bleed your soul through the music, which you kind of need. You need an outlet because you're trying to get out constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When did you first begin playing music?
When I was 9, both of my sisters are older than me, 2 and then 4 years. So, and then my mother, my adopted mother, was from Haiti. So she used to listen to a lot of like Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, like a lot of like soul and Motown and stuff like that. And then my father was really into like the Rolling Stones and Neil Diamond and stuff like that. But my sisters, they were into like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Grateful Dead. So Pink Floyd I really gravitated to. Like I could sit there and listen to the sounds, and you can get really deep into that music.
Yeah.
And it kind of took me away from any mental issues that I was having, not knowing that they're mental issues, just thinking that you're sad all the time, feeling alone all the time. I spent a lot of time in my room.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
yeah.
We have that in common.
Yeah, I mean, my friends I had other friends that played music, and they would go out and play in front of everybody, and they would go to these big parties that everyone would throw, and I'd be home.
Yeah.
And
With your guitar?
With my guitar. And it was actually, my dad had a guitar. He played when he was very young, and then decided not to play anymore, but he kept it. And I found it, and so I would sit there and strum away, and I was really into Pink Floyd The Wall. And I opened up this book, and I saw these little graph things on the top of the chords, of the notes, and realized that the lines going down must have been the strings, the lines going across must have been the frets, and the dots must have been your fingers. So I started to play the chords that were there, and then here I'm playing Pink Floyd The Wall. And then I would hit a chord, and it would give me a feeling, like an A minor, you hit the chord and it kind of makes you feel sad.
Yeah.
So if you're down and you play an A minor, then it kind of embellishes that feeling.
You connect with that resonance.
Yeah, and then the grouping of the chords, being able to create something that whatever you're feeling can go into. It was kind of like bottling that depression into music. And so when I'm 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I'm writing music about depression and not realizing it.
Sorry. Okay. How did you know you were depressed? What was it? What were the defining factors for you? Like these sort of attributes that said, okay, there's something not right. I don't feel well.
Confusion. that feeling of constantly being alone. It doesn't matter how many people are in the room, you know.
Feeling of isolation?
Uh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. You could, like I said, you could be in a room full of people.
And still feel alone.
Yeah, and we had talked about this before, where if you're in a room full of people and none of those people suffer from depression, and they want to help you, so they'll say, hey, look, think this way or do this, and this will help you and that'll help you.
Right, they try to help you, but they have no idea what's
Right.
going on. They don't have a clue, and they're not inside your mind, and they don't know the anguish that you're going through.
Right. So what
it's not
essentially they're
visible
doing,
sometimes, yeah.
and even though they're trying to be helpful, essentially what they're doing is they're kind of making you feel more alone, because they're just kind of explaining how
Just
much
giving
they
you
don't
bad
understand.
advice, right.
And it's not. It's bad advice to you because of what you're going through, but it's not bad that they're trying to do it.
I mean, it's good. It's well intentioned.
Right, exactly.
Their intentions are good, but they're completely
Right.
off the mark.
Yeah, and sometimes it makes it a little bit worse, So
Right.
so you end up going through depression and just not telling anybody, because you can at least maintain at that level.
And that makes it worse.
Everything makes it worse.
Everything makes it worse.
I mean, I would say the only thing that doesn't make it worse is talking to somebody else who suffers from depression, who knows what you're going through. So it's kind of like, let's say you were in a family of people that and you yourself had no arms and no legs, okay? And everybody in your family, that you know has arms and legs. And, they can sit there and give you as much advice as they can, but they don't know what it's like. But if you meet somebody else that knows what it's like, you feel like now that's your family. Like this person knows what I feel like. This person can relate to everything that I'm thinking, feeling, and saying, and it makes you feel better that you're not so alone. There's another person that gets it. At least for me, that's the way I feel.
Okay, I'm really curious, because depression is very different for a lot of different people. For me, it was not being able to get out of bed,
Sure.
not wanting to interact with other people, wanting to stay to myself, and then eventually thoughts of suicide.
Right.
How was it for you?
Absolutely. You don't want to do anything. Procrastination becomes your biggest enemy, because it's not a matter of.
I'm so glad you came today, by the way.
Oh, thanks
You're
for having
doing well.
What you're doing is great, because this is a conversation that people need to hear and need to see. There's been such a stigma on mental health for the longest time that it's brutal. It really is.
People don't want to talk about it, especially thoughts of suicide and things like that. They don't want to hear it.
Right.
People want good vibes.
Right.
They want to have a good time. People are generally very selfish.
Yeah.
Really. So, when it comes down to being empathetic and hearing somebody else, it doesn't happen very often, especially in today's day and age. Not happening. But hopefully we're moving towards a more empathetic time. People are sensitive. They listen. How has the healthcare been for you here in New York? Have you had any kinds of
It's
ups and downs or things like that?
Well, when I originally went, it wasn't something that they were like, here, you need to take these drugs or anything like that. They basically told me what the problem was.
Yeah.
And I was going to college at the time, so I kind of was like, okay, well, at least I know what it is, and I just left it at that. Within the course of 3 years, I lost my grandmother, my grandfather, and my mother.
Wow.
So after my grandfather had passed, I never really had time. I mean, I work a lot.
You didn't have time to grieve.
Right. And it was kind of weighing on me. And I could see, in my own family, I could see them kind of like needing to take breaths. You know what I mean? Because they know what I'm going through. And, unfortunately, depression is one of those things where you have to look at yourself.
Right.
And so I went to go talk to somebody. And when I went, it was like, I have insurance, and it was a $20 copay. And then all of a sudden it was like a week later, I got a bill for $70 on top of that. So $90, supposed to see them every week. So for a musician, you know, the amount of money that you make is not astronomical.
Right.
And to have to drop $90 for your mental health every week,
yes.
would put you so far behind. And, you know, stress really brings on depression.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
So that I could just see, like, no matter what she's doing to help, the stress of not being able to pay my bills would just bring it back tenfold. So I kind of had to stop. There's no real funding for it. Since the 1950s, they've been closing mental institutions. You know, they don't talk about depression. My band, when we play, a few of us in the band suffer from depression, and we talk about it with the audience. You know, we tell
Great.
people to talk about it because people aren't going to know about it unless things like this, like your show,
Sure.
unless they can hear people that actually suffer from it talk about it, not people that were taught about it.
Right. People who've actually walked the walk.
Right.
Okay. It seems that these you had some tremendous losses. Your grandfather, right?
Right, yeah.
Your mom,
Yep.
right, and
My grandmother.
your grandmother, and that was all within a short period of time.
Yeah, it was 3 years, like each year, somebody else.
So that must have thrown you, off your horse.
It did. I mean, you know, when you're already suffering, and then you have something like that happen, and then, you know, I have my regular day job, and then I'm a musician. You know, I play solo all over the place. And then I have a full band, and then now I own a radio station. So and then I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old son in college. So there's a lot there,
Full
and there's
plate.
not really much time
Yeah.
to grieve.
Right.
And you don't realize how much not being able to grieve can pile on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then one day it'll just,
yeah,
it's
either snap or it just comes back to you somehow.
and it usually happens when you do have a little bit of time.
Right.
You know, so like over the holidays, we went down to Florida, and it was the first time my entire family had been together in a while. And I went to bed one night, and my wife is sleeping next to me, and I just could not stop my brain from moving. And it was weighing on me so hard. I didn't have any instruments because I was down in Florida, and I just picked up my phone and just started writing as much as I could. I wrote a quick message in a group, a private group that we have for depression, and then I wrote just something for myself, just trying to get it all out, and it helped a little bit. You know, by no means was it a song. It was just getting everything that I had in me out. But you'd never know when it's going to hit. But it hit me because that was the first time in a long time that I had kind of downtime where there was literally nothing to do or think about. And then that's when all of that kind of came crushing in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to grieve, especially not even if you just suffer from depression. You have to grieve. You know, you got to take the time, because even if you feel like you don't need to, it's going to hit you at some point.
It's a process. It is, because it comes and it goes. Like whether it's a divorce or a death, these things they last a long time. They get stored in your body somehow.
Yeah, sure.
They stay with you until you are able to get it out. And I think you have a very good way of getting it out.
Yeah, sure.
Right, with the music.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a great outlet. Is there anything you want to tell the audience about, let's say, your condition?
If you suffer from depression, you need to talk to somebody who suffers from depression. I mean, you can definitely go see a therapist, let them kind of give you the ideas, but try talking to someone who suffers from depression first, because they get it. You know what I mean? One of the things that most people that suffer from depression can relate to is that feeling of being alone and how far removed they are from everybody else. But if you talk to someone who suffers from depression, you feel how close you are with somebody, how much you have in common with somebody, and it makes you feel less alone. If you don't suffer from depression, don't try to tell people what to do to get their head straight or to feel better. Or depression is not something that's brought on by something. I mean, stress can help bring it on, but it's chemical. It's in you. It's in their body. I mean, it comes down to, you could be looking for something your entire life and trying to get it, and it's when you get to that moment, you should be so excited, super happy.
Right.
But somehow you just can't find a way to be excited or happy. Now the whole time you're thinking, if I get that, I'm going to be so happy, everything's going to be great.
Right.
And then when you do, you're not. You're just, and then people don't understand. Like, how come you're not happy? How come you're not
Right.
excited? And you feel like just telling them, shut up.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean, for the people watching, basically depression, what it does is that it strips you away from all happiness and joy, and things that would be joyful or enjoyable for you are completely, could make you even feel sad that you're not able to enjoy it at all. I can relate to that very well. When I was about 17 years old, I was playing in a band. We were playing at the Chance, and after the concert, I felt so drained, so depressed, and I felt like somebody died. It wasn't until years later I realized that it was actually my father's death that was coming back to haunt me, and that after the show, my father wasn't there waiting for me.
Yeah.
And there to watch me and tell me that I did a good job for something, anything like that. But my father was missing, and that was a huge source of depression. That was traumatic loss, actually. But depression stripped me of all joys in life. Even there was a period after my divorce where I didn't even want to play music anymore. Didn't want to pick up the bass. Just basically just wanted to bleep out. Just wanted to die, actually. I wanted to die for a very long time. It wasn't until recently, when I made a trip to Hanoi, Vietnam, that I found this spark of life again and a cause, which is the mental health issues and awareness as well. So that's one of those big things that has given me a lot of drive and the impetus to go and to go forth and try to help other people, because I was able to make it through somehow. And now I only take a very low dosage of medication, which is very good, and you know, it helps.
Yeah.
And
that's important. I mean, like all right. So what you said there is really important. So much so that people don't realize it. So there was such a stigma on mental health issues and you know, with depression, that nobody would talk about it, which made you feel even worse. You know what I mean? And once you start to talk about it, knowing that there's an issue is a huge step in the right direction. Because if you don't know and you just think it's going on, if you think you might suffer from depression, go find out. That's definitely something.
talk to a professional.
Talk to a professional. That's something a professional can help you with. Because
Don't self-diagnose.
Don't self-diagnose.
That's one big thing. Don't self-diagnose. That's really.
And there are people who self-diagnose that don't suffer from depression, and it's they could just be sad. You know?
They could just be sad. I mean, the depression is usually categorized as something that's or defined as something that lasts more than maybe 2 weeks or something like this. It's not just sadness. It's something that's like having. It's like, I mean, it's having an illness, basically. And,
it's chemical.
It's chemical. It's chemical.
You
Sometimes it can be brought on by life events.
Yeah.
But for the most part, when it stays with you and it doesn't go away and you can't shake it and you can't snap out of it, as people would like to say or have you do, it's not possible to snap out of it. It's really a chemical thing. Sometimes it needs to be treated with therapy or medications or both, a two-pronged approach.
And it's something that comes on without you. Without you being ready for it.
Yeah.
It comes on at the weirdest times. I mean, you could be at a party with all your friends, and all of a sudden, there it is.
You could be alone in a crowded room.
Yep. Oh yeah, and you just want to fade away. You don't want to sing. You want to pull the Irish goodbye. You don't want to say anything. You don't want to do anything. It's a weight. It's a huge weight. You know, we had talked about that with my friend who said that he just couldn't lift the weight anymore. You You know,
Yeah, tell me about that. I really want the audience to know that story.
so a friend of mine had passed away. He had committed suicide, and he had left a note. And in the note, he said that the weight had just become too much for him to carry. And for anybody that suffers from depression who's either attempted suicide or has come very close to suicide, gets that so much, because that is you feel like you can't do anything. You feel like you're lifting this weight and there's nothing you can do about it. You feel locked in a box, and you feel like the box is closing on all sides, and all you can do is try to keep that box open a little bit to stay alive. And some people can't keep it open anymore. You know, sometimes that weight is just too much. And I mean, I didn't even know. I mean, a lot of times I can tell when somebody suffers from depression. I didn't even know he suffered from depression. In hindsight, I could see it. And his wife would say all the time, you can't start looking at yourself and blaming yourself and this and that. And she's 100% right.
Sometimes people are very good actors.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's part of the weight too. You know, when you don't talk about it, that adds to that weight.
So for some people, it's a heaviness. In my case, it was just not wanting to exist.
Right.
Just not wanting to be around anymore. To be over and say, if I die now, hopefully people will find my music and do something with it.
Well, I think one leads to the other.
Right.
So that weight would make you feel like you just want to disappear.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with anybody else. It just has to do with you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I believe you have a guitar with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's do that song real quick. We have time for that song.
So this particular song, I wrote it when I was 13. I was going through a really bad bout of depression at the time, and it was either end it or play music, write something.
End it or play music. Here we are, Jason Gisser.
So this song is written from the perspective of being in the casket and singing to the pallbearers. Wake me up when it's time to go home. I feel can't take it no more. Look me up when you cross the gate, for you all I'll see now. The belief in religion says it's okay to die. Do you feel this is my goodbye? Carry me across the hill, though I'm dry from the rain. Oh, your tears soak me still. Can't you see what I tried to do? Give my love to all of you. All of you. All of you. All of you. I tried to give my love. Carry me all across the hill. Though I'm dry from the rain, all my tears soak you still. Can't you see? Oh, what I tried to do. I tried to give all my love to you.
Jason, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
What a tremendous voice. That's great.
Thanks.
Wow. I really want to thank you very much for coming on today and on such short notice as well. Is there anything that you'd like to tell the audience in closing about mental illness? And
Got to get rid of the stigma. I mean, if you suffer, you got to talk about it, and talk about it with people that understand and that go through it and that know. And if you don't suffer from it, all you can do is really be there for them, and don't try to fix them. Just understand that you can't. It has nothing to do with you. It doesn't even have anything to do with them. It's chemical. It's inside them, and just be there for them, and just listen.
great. Thank you so much. Really a pleasure meeting you, man.
You too. You're doing a great thing here.
I hope to get to see you live sometime.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming, and wish you all the best. Stay healthy. I'm Todd Goldfinger, Jason Gisser, Conversations about Mental Health. Thank you.